This is the Union Action Team. Again, for those that are a little bit new to the program, the Union Action Team is essentially an organizing committee of active workplace leaders and stewards that get together during negotiations. So it's a lot of our stewards, some folks who are on the bargaining team, and others that are like, maybe I don't have the full bandwidth to be a steward, but I really want to help get secure a good contract. So we come together on the first Thursday of the month. Our steward meetings are on the third Thursday of the month. So this is a way to just kind of have additional touches as we go through negotiations. As negotiations is the most important thing that we do as a union. It's why we exist. We exist to enforce and negotiate the contract, which builds power for our members. So let's go through the agenda real quick. I want to talk about our OCEA proposal status. Since the last time that we met, feels like it was a long time ago, but a lot's happened. So I'll give you a quick update on kind of that. Some folks in the OCEA team, we've been lobbying with members of the Board of Supervisors who want to give you some really good insights we got out of that. Yesterday, like 24 hours ago, yesterday, we got a financial presentation from the county. So it was a soft launch of negotiations. We'll have some internal organizing opportunities we want to talk about and some of those key dates and timelines. So let's get to it. So the proposal finalization, if we covered some of this in our last steward meeting, my apologies, but it took two full meetings for our full team of primaries and alternates, in the room and to whittle down what our final initial proposal was going to be. The negotiation survey, that's our North Star. So we use that as the where we are going to put our priorities. So we saw out of the survey wages, money, right? One of the biggest priorities, but also flexibility jumped out. And then other areas around helping with benefit cost control. Then we had to make sure that we had the why. So that's all the research that we did. So we went through that research, the county budget, regional market, cost of living. And then there was a lot of fantastic ideas. There was no shortage of meaningful improvements that should be made at the workplace, but let's be real, right? Not everything can make it. If it was just simply good ideas would carry the day, then we would just throw every good idea, send it to the county, they'd say yes. But we had to make those hard choices. So we had to rank bargaining proposals, vote on things. So even people who had some priorities of theirs, they just saw that obviously not everything was going to make it onto that final proposal. So final proposal, we got about 20 or so items. We're proposing a 3-year term. The term is negotiated, right? So we would like a 3-year term. We would like money in all 3 years. The county might want a 3-year deal, but they might not want money in any of the years. So why would we agree to that? In our proposal, we have a few proposals around just flexibility, right? Being able to use more of your time that you accrue in a more flexible way, or just having more ability to have flexible work schedules where appropriate. And then how do we handle those that aren't able to do a flexible work schedule? Benefits, cost containment around healthcare, and then a lot of some additional premiums that we found in places that were either hard to recruit, really hard to retain. Now, I know everybody is in a similar boat, but there's some classifications in some areas where it's been really acute, and we've seen that over several negotiation cycles. So there are also some items that are holdovers from things that we couldn't achieve last time. I know the next question that's going to come is, all right, Timmy, show us the proposal. And we understand why you want to see it all right away, but the proposals are part of the strategy. If we made every proposal public in real time, it could weaken our leverage and make it harder to negotiate effectively. Confidentiality, while it seems like when you might be feeling like you're being kept in the dark, it's really about protecting the process so we can get that strong agreement. But as we have these periodic check-ins, you'll be able to track very clearly where everything is going. While you might not have the exact percentage, you're going to have the high level top lines and the things that really matter. So we're really trying to sunshine a lot more of this process, and you'll see some ways that comes through later. All right, so that was our initial proposal. We have it set. But over this last month, too, we've heard a lot of really upsetting news, particularly as it relates from the CEO's office, the CFO. We've been hearing things about the county wanting to we want 0% in the first year, 0%, no money. And so this was concerning enough that we wanted to chase down those rumors. So we go right to the source. We go to the County Board of Supervisors. So we had all 5 offices we met with the supervisor and members of their staff. So either a chief of staff or somebody, I think, in every single one, it was a chief or the person in the office who deals with labor union stuff. And then what was the purpose? We had to bring our financial numbers that we did through a financial audit where we saw some robust reserves, just where the math ain't mathin', and really push back on this, whoever's idea it is, that nah, we ain't starting at zero. That is so tone deaf, misses, just absolutely does not recognize, reward, retain the hard work of county workers. We provided them our financial pushback that would counter Michelle Aguirre's narrative and saying this cannot be the county's starting point. So what's the result of all that? Jury's still out. We don't quite know because we haven't had a first bargaining session yet. But each and every meeting, what we do know for sure, it landed well. It definitely then created a schism between the CEO and the board offices in a good way for us because Michelle Aguirre's pushing this, there's no money, there's no money, there's no money. We, gave some counter information and then also just leaned on them hard. So preliminary news we're hearing out of the Board of Supervisors closed session yesterday. Was there quite a robust discussion about negotiations. So I can say our intended purpose of going and meeting with the Board of Supervisors has worked for now. So as I always like to say, we walk as far as we can go, then we can see a little bit, and we're going to go a little bit further. So for now, we put ourselves in a much better position than we were in last month. All right, so let's cut to what happened yesterday. So yesterday was an interesting day. We get the county financial presentation. We just sent out our email recap. I'm sure some of you have seen it. This isn't anything new to us. The county kicks off they like to do a financial presentation, and that's just their kind of managing their framing of bargaining. So CFO Kim Ingleby presented. Not all unions or tables get the actual CFO. Lucky us, we got the CFO. She gave us her presentation. It wasn't anything shocking. It went through some previous years' budgeting and where they might have had shortfalls, their future forecasting, and whoa, what we're seeing is shortfalls, a tough period, and two things can be true at the same time. We know the county is trying to frame up and create a narrative that they're broke. And we know that's kind of not true. They're doing really well. Courtney and Rich, they said that the housing market was stagnant. Like, if this is a stagnant housing market, I'd hate to see an on fire one, right? So the
Exactly.
county's making money, they're just not making as much money as they have in previous years. But turn on the news, right? Go fill up your car with gas. There are real economic hardships, and there are legitimate impacts that hit the county as a result of last year's federal budget. So two things can be true at the same time. I don't want to just dismiss every concern the county has, but to say that we're in some sort of crisis is also completely false. So they gave us that county financial presentation. It didn't glean anything very new. They just really kept hitting over the fact that they feel that they are in a budget constriction time. They've taken budget actions. And then really they got very proud of themselves because they have deleted over 700 vacant positions, right? Isn't that fantastic?
That's my
700
pet peeve.
people to help you all do your work. And they were John Sincock on our board. That's like ripping your arm off to pat yourself on the back. This thing that they felt was this really smart financial move is the reason why you're all feeling so much pressure and you have less coworkers. You're having to do more with less. Another John Sincock classic, different, same planet, but different worlds. They're talking about cutting vacancies as this great thing, and we're getting killed by it. So that was a big part of their presentation. Nothing groundbreaking, just a lot of more of the same. So where does that leave us? So right now we got our alternates. They're in the OCEA assembly room. They're getting a recap just as well, a little bit more in depth. We meet next week, and to me, that is the kickoff of negotiations. Yesterday was a soft launch because we don't give a shit about what they have to say or their proposals. We like our proposals because we have great, fantastic ideas to make this a better place to work. So we're going to give them a financial presentation too from the worker perspective. What it's like to be an OCEA member in 2026. What it's like dealing with 700 vacancies on the books. That's not a source of excitement for us. That's a source of stress for our membership. What it's like to watch the county board of supervisors and executives give themselves a 15% or 25% raise while then saying there's nothing for you. So we're going to lay it down on them, what it feels like and what it means to be an OCA worker in this present moment. Then we're going to give that 20-item opening proposal. We have items that cover artificial intelligence. Like I said, premium. First one's going to be provide a 3-year MOU, provide, I feel like our wage pattern, and I'm not going to get stuck to it, but we're like few 5-6% per year, right? We're going to start getting up there. The first 3 years, we want wages in every year. We want to have some more flexibility. We want to have the county pick up a little bit more of the healthcare. Our top priorities, those 20, we're going to lay it on them. We're going to have all of our justifications, the why, right? We have the North Star, which is our survey. We have our justifications, which is the why. And then we also are going to have some article committees and side tables. So I know our sheriff special officers are going to have some specialty items. We're going to have some big discussions around bilingual. That's one of the biggest premium pay. It is the biggest premium pay item we have as a union. So we have some keen interest in how we expand that and preserve it. Artificial intelligence, that's going to be a big issue. And then some of our kind of carryovers, our O&E folks, some of our senior social workers, they've been going through it the last few years. We have been unsuccessful in trying to remedy some of these items outside the table, so we got to bring some of these items to the table. So be on the lookout for some of those if you're interested in artificial intelligence or seeing how that impacts your job or the work of public service. Let me know. We will have some additional virtual meetings in that space and what we're doing in bargaining. So that's next week. So what's that timeline looking like? I'll give you the sessions we got planned, what the Board of Supervisors meetings are, because you got to remember, we meet with spokespeople. They're given broad authority from the board, but they essentially are messengers. So they'll come in with a little bit of authority, give their message, but they always got to go back for additional insight. So the meetings of the Board of Supervisors impact what's going to happen at the table. And then there's some key events that are going to happen that are going to have a huge impact. So negotiation sessions, told you about the one on May 13th. Then there's another one a week later. Those are the only two we currently have scheduled, but we're going to pretty much schedule Wednesdays. So if it's not every Wednesday, it might be every other Wednesday or in that cadence. But the board, their next meeting is on the 19th. So we're hoping we're going to give them our opening proposal on the 13th. They get to discuss it in closed session on the 19th. So when they come back on the 20th, they should be able to actually give a counter proposal, give feedback because they've been given direction by the board. Then the 9th, that's the next time the board meets. So after the 20th, we might have to take a couple Wednesdays off because on the 9th, they come together for the annual budget hearing. Huge board meeting where they set the budget for the year. It's going to be Michelle Aguirre's swan song. And like a good union guy, if you're going to hand yourself a 25% raise and then tell the workers they ain't got shit, then we're going to have to crash your little swan song and remind her that she didn't make some of the most important plans, which are the plans for us. But we're going to be present at that. We're going to have members of our bargaining team and our board. It's going to be a subtle escalation. But if during those negotiation sessions things change, we might change the urgency around the budget hearing. But just keep that one on the books. If you're able to take some hours off in the morning and join us, we'd love to have it. It's not everyone get on the bus, come to the Civic Center. We're shutting it down. This is just a little taste, right? A little sample platter of just telling the board that we're watching you. Then some of those key events. June 2nd is an election. Our system is governed by those who win the election. So to think that in the public sector that we're not going to have some impacts wins the election,
Sorry. Hang on.
CEO transition. Michelle Aguirre's last day, I think, it's like the last week in June. The CEOs, that's a pretty important position. That's who's briefing the board. That's our liaison. And then our MOU expires June 25th. Just so folks know, all terms and conditions stay in effect, right? We have all of our rights that we've fought like hell for in our MOU. They don't go away because it expires. We'll continue to negotiate if we don't have an agreement by then. And then two, we have to, what I didn't put on here for key events, every other labor union is bargaining right now too. So that's going to impact us. We want to see kind of what's going on at the other tables, the pace. We don't necessarily want to get too far out, right? But we also don't want to fall too far behind. So it's an artful science, but all of these key events are going to impact that landscape. We don't just sit around, twiddle our thumbs, right? We're a union, we're an active union. So we're going to make time our friend. We're going to use the old adage, right? You get us a little goldfish together. You get a goldfish with a bullhorn, right? You can take on the big shark. So what we're going to do over this next month is internally organize. So you should have in your email, if you haven't seen it yet already, there's a Survey Monkey. We'll push it out one more time, but we're going to be doing some literature blitzing on the 12th. That's the day before we give our initial proposal. We're going to hit about 8 or 9 county locations just in the morning or after work. And it's basically, hey, we're starting negotiations tomorrow. Make sure you read your emails. Here's some upcoming events. I'll show you what flyer we're going to give out in a second. But also that very same day on the 12th, we got a big hot dog event at Cass and Can. So between Cass and Can with the hot dogger and these locations, that's over 70% of the OCEA membership essentially work in those facilities. So if we can generate some energy around our bargaining units, we know that's going to trickle up to the county executive rank. It's going to create some energy before we start bargaining, but also it's going to let people know what's going on. So this is the flyer we're going to give out. It's going to remind people that on the 27th of May, we're going to have a membership meeting virtually. What are we going to talk about? I don't know. We just started bargaining, right? We're going to give everybody a really in-depth recap of what's happened in negotiations this month. We want to start bringing people along a hell of a lot earlier than we've done in the past. So that's the first one. Our monthly leadership team meetings, y'all are here right now. Thank you. But our next steward meeting is on the 21st. Disregard your email. I totally put the wrong date of the steward meeting. It's on the 21st. It's always when it is. And then for folks who aren't getting their emails, we have that opt-in and then a QR code that will take you directly to the negotiations landing page. So it's not just about giving out the flyer. It's about bringing that energy to the workplace, showing that we're an active, dynamic union, and just send the message to the county the day before we start that we're ready, right? We're ready from day one. We're standing on business. And if they bring that dump truck full of money to us on day one, hey, we got a nice quick bargaining. Enjoy your summer. But if they don't bring that dump truck full of money, they don't bring that flexibility, they don't reward, recognize, and appreciate the work that we do, we'll walk to that fight. But we are ready for the fight.